Hey, this is Eric over at TechnoRV, and in this learning series video, I'm going to show you how to replace your old style twist lock plug with your new smart plug. So the tools that you'll need to complete this install is you'll need a Phillips head screwdriver, you will need a pair of cable cutters, and it'd be nice to have some wire strippers for this job, some scissors, and a tape measure or a ruler of some sort. Believe it or not, you're going to need to use some like dishwashing soap. And then everything else you need for this job is in the SmartPlug kit. So this is what comes in your kit. You have a weatherproof sleeve seal. You have a cord sort of install tool here that we'll get to. You've got some screws and a Allen wrench here. You've got the inlet that we'll be installing, and then you have your plug head that we'll be installing as well. Today I'm going to start with the inlet here, and the first thing that I'm going to want to do is on the back of this there is a strain relief, and I'm just going to take that strain relief off, and you will need to do the same thing here before we move this project over to the RV. So it's a Phillips head screw, and this should come out easily. There we go. I don't know if I'll need this strain relief until I open up the inlet on this Class C to kind of see where the cable is routed in the RV. If the cable kind of takes a 90-degree dive, then maybe you're going to need the strain relief, but if it doesn't, then you probably don't. So let's go ahead and install the inlet. So this is the inlet that we will be replacing here, and you'll have 4 screws here, and we just need to take these out and go ahead and take the existing inlet off of this RV. This is the easy stuff. Once we take these screws out, the inlet should just come out. I'll save these screws because I'm probably going to use these. The smart plug does come with its own set of screws, but I may use these existing screws, so I'm going to put these here so I don't lose them. This is where things can be a little bit different, is what the back side of this plug looks like. I mean, ultimately what we're doing here is we're going to be disconnecting the wiring on the back side of the inlet, and so this can look a little bit different depending on the setup. And this one looks like it's got a little twist bracket there, and then if I'm not mistaken here, okay, so it had like a twist cap on it, and then just did like a quarter turn on this, and the whole back just comes off. So nothing to that. And then you're gonna have your wiring going into the back of the inlet, and luckily it's Phillips head as well, so I'm just gonna loosen these so that I can take the wiring out. Again, yours may be a little bit different than this, but it should be something that is relatively easy to do. Once you loosen those, it just comes out like that, and the inlet is officially uninstalled, and then the rest of this just slides over the cabling, and it leaves you with just your wiring. And the first thing you want to do is you want to inspect the wiring to make sure you don't have any corrosion. In this case, this RV is basically new, within the last 3-4 months. The wiring looks great. If it didn't look great, then you're going to need to strip that back some more and find you some nice shiny brass there, and but I don't have to do that. So we look good right here, and this is ready for the new SmartPlug inlet. So this is a SmartPlug inlet. The screw pattern is pretty typical with these, and but there may be some rare cases where they may not line up, but in most cases they do. If you wanted to check, you could take this little weather strip piece off here, and you could just line it up with the screw holes to see, hey, is this gonna line up? And in this case, of course it does. And so we are ready to install the inlet here. And what we're looking to do here, these are color coded here on the back. You can see you've got your, of course you got your ground, your neutral, and your hot wire. And so this ring here is black. So of course I'm gonna put the black one there, and then the white one right here is gonna go here. And then of course your ground is gonna go in where the green is on the back of the SmartPlug. This is just a matter of lining these up. The side posts here, this kit comes with an Allen key here, so I'm just gonna screw those out a bit and get them ready for the cable to go in. And this is where you got to have a little patience to get the wires lined up here. And again, I'm gonna have to turn this a bit. And again, the ground is gonna go in the green, a neutral in the white, and then the black is my hot line here. So now that the wiring is lined up into the appropriate color-coded pattern here on the back of the inlet, we're just going to start tightening these up. And you really want to get a good bite on these. And if you do these one at a time and make sure that each one has a good bite, then that's going to save you the hassle of them popping out on you when you move to the next one. Don't ask me how I know that. Okay, those are in there good and tight. And now it is a matter, sorry about taking the view here, of getting my ground wire good and tight there. All right, double check and make sure that you have a tight connection to these wires, and you shouldn't have any movement in there. And I don't. So this is ready to be pushed back into the RV so that we can just screw this onto the outside of the RV. I did want to go back and talk about the strain relief here a little bit. If you've got a scenario where your electrical wires, once they enter the RV, are having to make some sharp turns, maybe there's a wall just a few inches in and the wiring's really having to cut, the strain relief is often good for that. And because in essence what will happen here is, instead of this cable just kind of coming straight back, the strain relief would be screwed back onto the back of the inlet, and the electrical wiring would actually come out of the sides here of the strain relief and hold them in place. In this case, we don't need it. Okay, it's time to go ahead and put the inlet into the RV here. So basically I'm just going to push it and do my best to line the holes up here. And of course you got this weather stripping on the back, and it can make it a little interesting on identifying exactly where we are at. I am going to use the screws that came with the RV on the previous inlet that we had, and from here again, patience is something you need to bring to the job here, because we're going to have to find the first hole here. And once I find it, then I want to go ahead and line the other ones up. I don't want to just crank this one down tight. And I think I'm going to try and take a peek behind here and get it through the, there we go. Okay, doing good there. See if I can do that on this upper side here. And actually leaving this hanging out a little bit is helping me kind of look behind it, line some of this stuff up, get the screw through the weather stripping on the back. Okay, got two of them biting there, and I'm going to go ahead and give it a good push there, because again, you don't want to install like the lower side in without having the upper side already in place, because that will be an instant problem for you. And that's why I like to keep pushing it in as I go. We're doing good here. We just got one more screw, and that lined up. So now's always a good time to really push it up against the RV and see what we're going to have here. My weather stripping is in place. I don't see any issues here with just going ahead and starting to work these in. So we'll get this one going. Needs to be snug, but you don't want to crank down too hard, because again, this is going into your RV here, and you don't want to strip that hole out. So you'll have to kind of gauge that. But from where I sit and looking at the weather stripping on the back, that looks great. So this is installed. Now what we need to do is go replace that plug head on the electrical cable, and we'll be done with this install. All right, it's time to get rid of this twist plug here, and I know you're excited about that, so let's go ahead and get started. I've got my cable cutters here, and we're just going to clip the plug head right off of it. All right, so let's go ahead and just cut right through the cable here. And having the right tool for the job makes that really easy. And this is what you're left with here. And this is where we will install our SmartPlug head. Now what I'm going to do from here is we're going to need to strip back 1.25 inches of this shielding right here. And so let's go ahead and do that. And so I mentioned earlier that you need a tape measure. And it's really important that you get, this isn't, the 1.25 inches you'll find out is an important number once we start stripping other things back. So you really want to measure this out. And by the way, did I mention you're going to need a knife for this job? So here is 1.25 inches right here, and I'm just going to go ahead and mark that with the knife here. And now I'm just going to strip the 1.25 inches off of here. And you want to make sure that when you're doing this that you are not going into the shielding so deep that you start cutting into the shielding from the wiring on the inside of this. You really just want to get this started, and again, the goal here is you do not, under any circumstances, want to go so deep that you get into the cabling. And this should pull right off here. And then you've got all of this sort of insulation here. And go ahead and just kind of inspect the wiring and make sure that you did not cut into it, which we did not. And then you're just going to use the scissors to snip away all of this excess shielding here. Kind of making a mess here, but it's got to go. There we go. All right. Now what we are going to need to do is strip back these 3 wires here a 1/2 inch. All right, so we're looking for a 1/2 inch here, so I'm just gonna kind of look at one to kind of get an idea visually of what I'm looking at, and because I want that to be right. And I've got some wire strippers here, so this will make the job easier. And again, you don't want to cut into that inside wiring, so just take your time. Just kind of go around it till you're through that shielding. Even try to pull it off before maybe it's time, just to make sure you don't cut into the wiring. And there it goes. And we're just going to do that to all 3 wires. And then we'll be ready to install the plug head. One left to go. 1/2 inch. And there we go. All right, we've got all of our wires pulled here, and now it is time to install the plug head. All right, so we got a 1/2 inch of the wire strip back, which leaves us about 3/4 of an inch down to the exterior shielding here. So I'm going to set this aside, and we're going to pull in our plug head here. And what you're going to need to do is go ahead and press in on both sides here, and then this will just come out just like that. And then we're going to take our weatherproof cord seal here, and this is going to need to go and inside of the hole on this end, and you basically just push it in there and then kind of inspect it from the other side until you'll see that it is in there nice and tight. All right, in the next step, we're going to need to get this cable through the weather boot here that we have on the back of the plug head. And the kit comes with this installer tool here, which you will definitely need to get this through that small hole. Now, in the instructions, it talks about that you need to lubricate the cable here so that it will go through this easier. And so I have some dishwashing liquid here that I'm going to put on the cable and on the installer up here. And then I've also got just some a water soapy solution here that I'm going to use as well. So let's go ahead and get this process started here. Okay, we're going to put dishwashing soap on about a foot of this here, because once we pull this through, you're going to pull it through about 7 or 8 inches through the plug head. So this part of the process gets a little sloppy, but it is part of the process. And it's a good idea to have like a dish rag with you to kind of wipe your hands off with here, because you're going to need to get some leverage on this. And then again, I've got this soapy water here, and I'm just going to go ahead and spray that on here as well. And then I'm going to spray some here. And then we are going to take the installer and push it right through this hole here. Now this is where you could take some soap, spray some more soap on it, because again, I need to get this cable about 8 inches through there. And you'll see that that soapy water, like I don't see a lot of people do that. But trust me, the soapy water is the key. If you'll first put some dishwashing detergent on it and then spray the soapy water, it really is not a big deal. It goes right in. So now we can just remove the installer and move on to the next step. Nothing to it. All right, it's time to install the plug head. So let's go ahead and bring that in. And again, color coordinated. You got green, white, and black. And we got a green, white, and black cable here. And on the instructions, it does kind of say it might be easier to kind of bend these to where they line up. So I'm going to kind of do that, but I'm really going to go in to this one cable at a time. And I'll go ahead and start here with the black cable and make sure, because once I have that in, then the other ones, I can move it around pretty easily once I have one in. And then you take that same Allen key that we used earlier, and you want to go ahead and tighten that up here. And now we'll circle back around to the green wire. Let's go ahead and get that in. Go ahead and tighten that a bit. And then it is just the white wire. And I'm gonna have to reinsert the black wire, but that's okay, because I did not tighten it down enough. So remember that when you're doing your install. Okay, and then you'll see that black wire kind of jumped out on me there, and that's okay. I'll just come back around and get that in, back out that screw a little bit. Sorry about this. I want to get it right though. Good. Good, good, good. That's in. And now we'll tighten that down. Excellent. Okay, I'm going to go around and give all of these an extra little turn to make sure they're good and tight, but that is what you are looking for when you are done, is those wires nicely seated in there, and your Allen screws nice and tight around those wires. So one thing I want to re-emphasize before we move on is take whatever time you need to make sure that the wiring is installed really well and tightened down so that they are not going to come loose. And this one is just fine. The other next step is to install the strain relief here. And remember when I told you that it was important that you make sure that your cuts are measured, because at the end of the day you want to make sure that this strain relief wraps around the shielding of the cable. So you've got a couple of screws that come with the kit here, and we're just going to install these, and this will keep that fine wiring job that you did from coming out, take any pressure off of the wiring in the back of the plug head. So get those lined up, and then just start inching these down kind of together. Okay, so something I actually should have done a little earlier is taken just this gasket off of the plug, because that'll expose the screw slots here whenever we push this back in and tighten it to it. So the back of this gasket has like some 3M type tape on it, and one of the last steps is we'll reinstall that back, but now you'll see that it's exposed the where we're going to put the 3 screws at. So the next step here is to just pull this back through this plug head right here. All right, from here it's just time to move the plug head here up into the housing. So you'll want to make sure you've got 1 screw hole on one side of this and 2 screw holes on another. So make sure you've got that lined up with where the screw holes are in the housing. And I need to twist mine just a little bit here. And because we've been working on this for a bit, it's the cable's kind of dried up, and so I'm going to use just a little bit of soapy water here, not a whole lot, but just right there to get it started on the cable. And then I like to use like a towel just to get a grip. All right, the plug head is installed. You've got 3 screws that need to secure the plug head into the housing, and so let's go ahead and get those in here. Again, Phillips head screwdriver is the tool you'll need. Go ahead and get all 3 of them started here. There we go. Got 2 going, number 3. All right, and then we'll just go around and just keep going around until they're all starting to bite. And then again, don't want to over tighten, but it does need to be tight. We're almost done here. with this project. Okay, screws are installed. And the final step here is to reinstall the gasket here. And again, it has got the sticky back on it, so we're just going to go ahead and take that off. And then place that in here, line it up, and then you can take just your Phillips head screwdriver and just start going around and around until that seats in there. Perfect. That is the completed product, and I'm excited to go plug this into the RV. All right, it's the final install here. We've got the plug head on, the inlet is installed, and you remember how clunky the process used to be to plug your electrical cord in with that twist on plug head that you used to have? No more. This is the SmartPlug head going into the SmartPlug inlet, and it is just that easy. And I don't want to make any assumptions at what's on the other end of your power cable, but you need to make sure that you've got a surge guard total electrical protection system like this one here. This one's designed for 30 amp RVs. It's the 34930. The newest model is the 34931. And for 50 amp models, you want to be looking for the 34951. We've got lots of videos on the TechnoRV YouTube channel to describe in detail what these units will do for you. And go over there now and check it out.